welcome to another episode of Talking Shop. I have my friend Simon Tryzna here joining me. And as you will notice, compared to my previous guest so far, Simon's on the younger end of the career spectrum. So I'm excited to have his perspective of all of this going on from a younger advisors. But Simon, real quick, how are you handling all this navigating, working from home and all this craziness?
Yeah, Justin, it's been tough adjusting to it because it all happened while the markets were free falling and there was just a lot of information to digest. But since then, it's been nice to kind of build up a routine, and now I kind of know what I'm doing. Working from home. I was lucky enough to where I've had work remote days in the past over the last couple 2-3 years, and everybody on the team has. So as far as like the setup and the process, it wasn't too bad. It's just the fact that, instead of working remote 1 or 2 days a week, now you're doing it 5 days a week. And that's been a bit of a challenge.
How are your clients handling everything? I enjoy getting the kind of gauge of the overall state of how clients are actually behaving versus what we're reading and seeing on the news. So how are your clients holding up?
They're good. It's been phenomenal. We've had a lot of good conversations with them when kind of like the initial shock happened. And it wasn't anything where, they were reaching out to us. It was like, hey, like us calling, hey, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Like, we want to make sure that they're, healthy and safe, and first and foremost, if they've been impacted by this at all whatsoever. And we've had a lot of just conversations about kind of what they're up to. And the only questions we kind of got inbound at first is like, what are you guys thinking? Like, not necessarily like, should we go to cash? Should we like sell everything? It's like, what are your thoughts right now? Like, what are you thinking about this? What are you going to do? So we rebalanced our portfolios like 3 weeks ago, just because they got so out of range from long-term asset allocation goals. And really, we're just telling our clients, we'll get through this. We're continuing to kind of monitor, and we've increased communication, just like weekly client communication via emails, just with our latest thoughts. And that's been gotten really good feedback. But so far, our clients are just like kind of in the same boat as us, like, hey, we'll get through this. Like, I think from talking to other advisors, this is a lot easier to understand than 2008 because it's impacted literally every single industry. And I think because of that, everyone's just like, we're all in the same boat, no matter what you're doing.
I was going to say, I was talking with Michael Baker last week, and I mentioned this there. I mentioned it again, just in case somebody watching or listening didn't listen to that episode. I think that the fact that your clients are wanting communication and wanting to know what do you guys think, and they're not really panicking, speaks to you and your firm's approach to financial planning and actually doing financial planning, as opposed to just only investments or selling product.
Yeah.
I'm sure in the conversations you guys have had with your clients over the years, you've talked about what's normal, when things are going to happen, and when a downturn comes, here's how we're going to react. And now that it's here, they probably want a little bit of reassurance of what you told them before is what you're going to do, and then to see you do it. But I think that just speaks to the value of financial planning versus just the value of investment management.
I gotta tell you, like, the best meeting, we've had through this, where more of like, hey, this has like, let's kind of reassess where your financial plan is, and are you still like on target to retire kind of in that mid 50s, or like, what is the impact of it? And like, doing some scenario planning is kind of like been a nice part of this, is readjusting them. We use e-money and kind of readjusting those.
I think it'll be interesting to see how many plans change from the client side coming out of this. And what I mean by that is, whether it be they have a health scare, they come down with COVID, or they know somebody who does, and now it's okay, my view on what I want has changed. Or maybe this living within the house and realize that we don't need as much stuff, or we don't need to go do different things. So I wonder how many plans are going to change if the plans are tied to really what people value the most. I wonder if we come out of this realizing that our priorities going into it are different after we come out, and we have a different focus, which would ultimately change the plan.
Well, that makes you bring up a good point, and me living on the investment side of things too. Do you use e-money for your business?
I just switched to Right Capital. I was on e-money, but for my clients, the planning that we need to doesn't have to get that detailed. And to be honest with you, reevaluating business and what can we provide for our clients, and expenses and revenues going down. Part of the decision was budgetary. I felt like Right Capital was good for software. E-money is great. But for where I'm at now, what my clients need, it was an easy switch.
Well, I was going to say, because like, I don't know too much about Right Capital, but one of the things that I have to speak to in e-money related meetings is the projected rate of return on investments, and how does that factor into the financial plan. And so this scenario, I mean, how this unfolded kind of plays into, you know, when clients ask us like, what's a good like annual rate of return moving forward, now being able to really think hard about those questions and being able like, hey, if this were to happen, like what impact would it be? And so for the portfolios, we use Riskalyze to kind of get the short-term assessment, but from a long-term perspective, having the, hey, if this were to happen again, or if this continues to get worse, like what impact will it be? I think that's really important.
Yeah, right. Capital has that capability. You can change whatever the return might be, and you can even do it on the spot and can kind of show scenarios that would be if the market did this and inflation did this and all these different things, and you can see how the probability of success changes. And I think those are just good conversation pieces, because ultimately we don't know. And like the software is great for us to take everything that we know today and project it out. But I think you have to, as an advisor, use that as a conversation piece, saying, if things go as planned with these assumptions, here's where we are, here's a range. And then if we make these changes, here's what could happen as well. And if we see these scenarios, here's what we may have to think about doing. If we see prolonged low returns or negative returns, then maybe you're going to have to go work a couple more years. Not saying that's going to happen, but just be prepared. Or if that's off the table, then you may have to give something else, and just use it as a conversation. So if that scenario plays out, you're not talking about it for the first time when it happens. You've talked about it before, and then you can revisit it. So I think a lot of times advisors are not misusing financial planning software, but relying on it for too much and not using it as just a conversation piece to run a bunch of different scenarios and talk through them to kind of come up with what are the most likely outcomes that we could see, and what will we do in those scenarios, and what will we need to change.
Well,
I think it's pretty.
I was going to say,
Go
like,
ahead.
It's a great tool, and it's important to always revisit it. Like the way I like to phrase it is, are you how are you tracking, right? Like, are you doing the right things? Are you headed the right way? And a lot of times it is a bit of a peace of mind for clients. Like, hey, I'm actually like, in a good position, like taking into account everything that happened last year or so.
Well, being an advisor that's been in the game for 15 years now, crazy to think that. I think it's very refreshing.
You don't look like you've been in the game for 15 years.
I try. I think it's very refreshing to see a younger advisor, and I don't mean that in any disrespect other than you're newer in the profession, a younger advisor that gets that already. Because I don't think very many young advisors come in. There's no real good career path coming in to really grasp that. So most advisors your age are just now realizing, you know what, I don't want to sell insurance, or I don't want to hassle my friends and family to do Roth IRAs to get things set. Like they're figuring that out, and you're light years ahead of all that.
I figured that out in the first interview in college. Like, what does this job look like? Well, you have to make a list of 40 people that you can go talk to and see if they need life insurance. I'm like, that's not for me.
Yep. I had to come up with 100 names. So they got soft on you. Being that you are, though, ahead of the curve, I'm still interested to get, you mentioned from talking to advisors, you kind of gather that this time around is a different experience than 2008, 2009. But being that this is your first real traumatic market experience, what are you thinking about it as a young advisor?
I think this is phenomenal from a career perspective, and it's nice because I've had close to almost 7 years, if you include college experience, like in the industry where things are going well. So I know like how things, when they do go well, how it feels, how it works. And then now we're in a bit of a crisis, and it's almost like a scout's badge of honor, right? It's like, okay, now that I lived through this, I can now, tell prospective clients that like, hey, like I was an advisor through this period, and it brings a little bit more, it has the ability to bring more credibility to it. So that's the one aspect I'm learning from this, is like, once, you get through this, it's almost like, hey, I've been an advisor through a very difficult time period, and I've come out better for it. The other way, it's, I think it was Andrew that was talking about last week, or in a book club, where it's like, you just have to learn from this. And that's what I'm really trying to do, is really trying to learn from the, reading the Ritholtz guys, for example, or any other, CIOs, reading their commentary. I'm saving all the commentary, like saving my own writing, and really looking at it as kind of like just a way to learn. Right. And so, I've started a blog to kind of put together my like live thoughts on this, and kind of that'll be something to look back on Definitely like looking back later on from the client emails and the client commentary we sent out to kind of learn and be like, oh, this is what I was thinking on March 9th. Maybe in retrospect, like I should not have maybe written it that way, given what I know now. So anyway, just it's a massive learning experience, and as difficult as this time period is, knowing that this is a good opportunity is something to kind of hang on to, because I know like you were going to ask me about like tips for this time period, but I think one of the things that's been really difficult is not having something to look forward to in sense of like a sporting event, or like a vacation. And so it's been really hard to find kind of like the things to kind of keep you going, the good things. And one of the things that I am hanging on to is like, we're going to get through this, and this is a learning opportunity for me, but also for everybody else.
I think you'll look back and realize that this will also give you a lot of confidence because of all the learning that you're going through. This is not going to be the only market turmoil that you go through in your career. So the next time it comes around, you're going to be even that much more confident that you're guiding your clients. Because I remember back in 2008, at that time, I was telling people what Nick Murray was telling me, the long term, and stay with it. And I was telling them that, and I believed it, but there was a little bit of doubt because I'd never really experienced it before. And they stayed with the plan. We made it through. They were all better off from it. They all retired when they planned on retiring. So that experience, that what I was telling them actually was the right thing, and I got to live that myself rather than reading it from somebody, was a huge confidence boost. It does give you credibility. I mean, you're young, you look young, but now you've got these war wounds that you can say, hey, I made it through COVID-19 and 2020 and everything that went on there. I know that if we have a good plan in place, we stick to the plan, we remain flexible when we need to be, but not make any bad decisions, we're going to be okay, and we're coming on the other side. And I can tell you that because I did that. I will tell you, though, that the next time there will still be little moments of doubt of, is this time different? And I think that starting the blog is a great thing. I would also encourage you to actually start like a journal. So like, because I think some of the things you would write in a journal would be different than what you're going to write on a blog. So like the journal for me, I just started this maybe within the last month, is a little bit more emotional. Because what I really want to be able to look back at is, what was I feeling? I'm not going to be fake and lie to my clients, but I also am going to try to be a stoic leader and not let them know that there is a little bit of doubt and fear in my mind. Like, I'm human. I can't escape those emotions, but you as my client don't need to see that. You need to see that I've got my stuff together. Your plan is in good place. I'm going to hold your hand, and we're going to get through that. And then I'll have my doubts in the background that you don't see. I want to be able to look back and say, okay, March 9th, this is what I was feeling. The one night that I'll remember looking at is the night that the NCAA got canceled, all these things. And like, that was a moment for me, like, man, this is really real. And how bad is it going to get if we're canceling NCAA? That was the same night the boys had the first round of school getting canceled. And I'm just like, everything is shutting down. Like, what don't I know? What don't I understand? And now some time has passed, and I got past that moment pretty quickly, but it wasn't the most comforting night. So
No, that whole week was just wild.
It was weird. It was the only word I came up with was weird.
So March 9th was my wife's birthday. We were literally celebrating her birthday in New Orleans, and we were like on a swamp tour, looking at alligators. I had the 2 days off from work, but I'm literally just on my phone seeing like just the market drop, like all the inbound emails coming in. I'm just like, so when we get back, this is going to be different.
So September 15th is my wedding anniversary. September 15th, 2008 is when Lehman Brothers went under. So I remember being at dinner, and my phone is lighting up with all these CNBC alerts and things. And I ended up going back home that night and calling all my clients and just letting them know I was aware of things, that stick to the plan, and kind of going through that script that we're taught. And then the next day, AIG takes a bailout, and the company I worked for was owned by AIG. So I'll never forget those days because of anniversary and then working with a company within AIG. So all these, we're all going to have these little stories that make these times unique to us. The birthday story, my anniversary back in the day, whatever it might be, it'll definitely be memorable. But I agree with you that your approach to it as looking at it as a learning opportunity is the right way. You could focus on the negative, you could focus on all the scary things, but I don't think you grow, and that doesn't help your clients. And at the end of the day, all those things you can't control anyways. So gather all the information you can, just personally, leveraging the people you work with, leveraging the AGC and the community there, and then you're going to come out of this with way more knowledge and way more confidence than most advisors, which will just be better for you and your clients going forward.
Yep.
So I'm not going to ask you for a tip because we went off on some tangents and you kind of replaced the tip with the negative side of not having sports and things to look forward to. I will give you one thing to look forward to. This week is the Bulls story, the final trip or whatever they're calling it. That's on ESPN.
Is that Sunday?
I think it starts this weekend. Yeah. So that is like our big sporting event right now, is looking back on Jordan and the Bulls. I can't wait to watch that.
Is that your team growing up?
My team was always the Pacers because I'm in Indiana, but I always rooted for Jordan. Like Jordan was my guy. So if the Bulls were playing anybody but the Pacers, I would root for them. But I've always been a Pacers fan, but I root for individual players.
Got it. Fair enough.
All right, Simon. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking some time out of the day to share what your experience and your knowledge of what's going on with other advisors out there. The goal for this is for advisors to see that what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, we're all feeling this together. And maybe from this, some new ideas come out of it or some new confidence comes from it. So I appreciate you sharing everything with us.
No, man, thanks for having me.
And everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, like all those things I hate asking for, but I'm being told we're supposed to do those types of things. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, like on the and give a review on the podcast, and we'll be back with some more of these later this week. So thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you in the next episode.